Hello anyone, this is Anything. You can call me Az. I'll be here every other day, vibe coding full stack web apps with TypeScript and Claude, doing test-driven development. So the first test we have here is the auth test. So you can see each of these steps are now passing. Yesterday or last stream, we were struggling to get this going, but it's going now. I'm going to fix the logging so it's a little bit more clear. But yeah, all 10 steps are working. I'm trying to generate a report now. So let's just do clear and then do npm run test report. So this should generate a report, but we're seeing that we're getting 0 tests at the moment in that log. So instead, we're going to go back over to Claude and just make it review that. So when I run the generate scripts, I expect to see all of the results from all of the tests, but currently I don't see any results. I'm going to do a plan, so it actually should tell me how it's currently trying to implement it and why it isn't working. And yeah, let's clear this out. The projects that we're working on are To-Do So let's sign up with just a random example. First, we need to restart this, npm run dev. And yeah, you can check out the links in the description to try out both of these apps. One of them is quiz.win. They're both sort of just demonstration portfolio projects that enable me to do live test-driven development. So they're just interesting projects that I can do some testing on. This one is a it's a Tamagotchi clone with a to-do app built in. And so you feed your Tamagotchi, we'll just call it Tam and then Tam, I don't know, .com. You can make up any email if you'd like to try this out and sign up. The database will also be wiped pretty regularly. And then in this app at quiz.win, you don't even need to sign up. You can just select one of these pre-existing users that have these different privileges depending on which user they are. And this is essentially demonstrating organization management between 2 different organizations for a quiz management platform. So we can sign in as the super admin and we should be able to see all of the data. But we can also sign in as one of the org admins or just as a regular user as well. Okay, so this is To-Do We're now signed in. Yeah, so let's do some tests. First of all, what does it think about the generate script? Okay, so we're trying to generate a report from all of the test results, which currently get output as timestamped directories with the name of the test in the name as well. And so when we run this script, we want it to go through all of those test results and then output a single README file showing like this. This is what it should actually look like, and currently we're just getting 0. So how is it going to do this? So the problem is that the script isn't finding any test results because the regex pattern doesn't match the actual README. So we just need to fix the regex that's going to identify the data it needs to extract to put into the report. So that sounds good. I'm going to do an auto accept on that, and then we'll be able to run that test again. In the meantime, we need to set up some tests for quiz.win. So as mentioned, this is quiz.win here, and we can sign in just by selecting one of the users. We can see how many quizzes we have, how many we've completed, and then these are the quiz results down here. I'm going to do it like this so it's better mobile design. And so yeah, we have the quizzes here. The mobile could use a bit of work. I think what we could do is zoom out slightly with this one here. Okay, that'll just give us a little bit more room to work with. So we can select one of these quizzes and then we can see all the responses below. Because we're an admin, we actually get to see the responses for all the different users. If we weren't signed in as an admin, then we would only see our responses. So we can click through any of these users to see what they have answered for these quizzes. Again, it's a very simple app. But the idea is that this is to demonstrate some organization management, authentication, and all that. And we're designing the test. The tests are what's important. Okay, so let's see how Claude has done for To-Do about fixing this report. We don't want it to run it. I want to do that on its behalf. So let's go over and do that. npm run test report. And I'm curious to see, yeah, same problem. So I'll just copy this. And it should just be a refinement issue. So we just go same problem. And I'm not going to do auto accept though. I want to actually see, because it's the same issue, I want to see what new idea it has to fix that. In the meantime, we can start running some tests at quiz.win. So we'll do npm run test auth. It's actually E2E for end-to-end. So I use this kind of format so that I can select what kind of test it is between a unit test or an E2E test. The E2E test actually opens up the session, in this case using 4 workers, but we need to fix that. So I want only 1 worker as long as that's possible, just because that's a lot less computational overhead. So let's clear this out and open up Claude. Just say refer to the documentation at testing and say that all of the tests should run with the minimum number of required workers. Minimum number of required workers. So if a test only needs 1 worker, then only use 1. And again, we're going to do a plan mode because this is quite a big document here, this testing one. Looks like this. And this refers to another document that has the examples of all the different files that we use. So here you have it referred to the structure and everything. And so I want it to extract the relevant data and then tell me what its plan is. But we just want to get 1 worker processing each of the tasks so that we can have them running simultaneously and not worry about computational load. Okay, so check what test results are in. Okay, so this is because the generate report file actually uses this document right here, which looks like this, that lists all of the tests in the repository. So there's obviously something, or most likely something, about the format of this that isn't quite like my other projects. And so it's going to have to make the generate report script a little bit more bespoke. So it's going to read that. And then over at quiz.win, it is working out the worker situation so that we can get those tests running. In the meantime, I want it to just check that it makes sense. We got to open up the right way. I want it to do a quick review. Review the tests in the repo. I can't seem to do it that way. That's fine. That's weird. Okay. Review the tests in the repo and the test.mddoc and align the document to the actual tests. And I'm going to do a plan so it can actually tell me how it's going to align it. So what kind of differences it actually uses. Also, thank you for voting, whoever voted. I'm curious to hear what it is that you use for vibe coding. I do have the chat open. I think it's public, so you don't have to subscribe to chat. Pretty sure that is. Feel free to say hello. We don't need to talk about programming. It can be other stuff. Okay, so configure the minimum workers. Based on the analysis, it is going to update the auth tests to add test describe configure merge serial. All right, so that means it's going to go through each of the tests one by one, as opposed to parallel, where it's just like a shotgun, they all go at once. That should be relatively straightforward. Verify the configuration follows the rule 9, which is that we should only have the minimum number of workers required. So for example, if you had a messaging test that sent a message and then checked that it was received, that would be a minimum of 2 workers. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And we have another prompt that we're working on. And we just need to approve it. Okay, then at To-Do-Magotchi, we are testing the pattern logic. So this is just to make sure that the report generation reads the files correctly so that it can generate that report properly. Run the test reports. Yeah, that's fine. Usually I like to run the scripts myself, but if it's a simple script like this, that should be pretty quick, then it can run it. And then it will check the generated report and see what it looks like. We can do that too. All right, same problem though. The test.md file has the wrong path format. Okay, so it's doing a relative path. It should have the actual path in there. And so that's just a fix that it will need to apply All right, so we'll let it do that. While it's doing that, I'll head back over to quiz.win, see if there's anything we can respond to. Okay, so I've successfully configured the auth test to use the minimum number of workers. Let's try that out. Let's open up a new terminal and we will do npm run test e2e auth and see if it does. We're still using 4 workers. So before I even let it run, I'm just going to copy this and go back over and let it know that that's actually didn't do the thing. It's still using 4 workers. And oops. Oh, that's fine actually. That's fine. We don't need to paste the evidence. Okay, so that now it's looking at the playwright configuration. Before it was referring to only the tests. Okay, it seems to be wanting to hard code to 1, but oh, I see. We've got a process env var that was previously determining whether it should be 1 or undefined, and now it's trying to hard code it to 1. So let's just chat about that. It seems like you've now hard coded to always use 1 worker. Use 1 worker. I need to use multiple workers for some tests. I think you need to update the corresponding env var instead, ? And we'll do a plan mode on that. So that's because this right here, it's now in the playwright config and it looks like it's just set it to 1. And before it was referring to this env variable. I think it's because I've switched my environments and maybe this env var wasn't set. But I think we want this previous pattern. So we'll see what it says about that. And then also this prompt here, what has it got up to? So this is the plan. To align the test.md documentation with the actual tests. It's going to fix the numbering, fix the duplicates, and change, I don't know why it's got a fire emoji, change number 7, okay, currently shows as section 8 in the doc. So it looks like a numbering issue. Add a missing test report command. Okay, that's fine. I thought that we already had that though in the test. Okay, that's just notes. All right. So this is all because when we run the generate report, it needs to read from this documentation and it needs to know what the format of the docs are going to be. So back over to Doomagotchi. Again, there are links in the description to try out these projects that I'm working on. Okay, so this is to fix the test report generation part 2. So we have both of the same issue in both of these. That's the worker issue. I'll come back to that in a moment. But here at Doomagotchi, we have fixed the regex pattern. We have a new issue, which is that the file name parsing doesn't handle this prefix. Okay, so instead I want to not do what it's suggesting here. It's trying to make this prefix work when it generates the file. Instead, we should just store it as the correct thing. I think we need to use absolute paths. So rather than parsing the ... paths, set the paths more explicitly in the doc file. We'll call it the source doc file. Okay. I also just have lost some of my keyboard shortcuts, so if I look like I'm kind of, I don't know, all over the place with some of this keyboard stuff, it's because the environment's changed and it's surprising every time I need to fix it. Okay, so we are fixing the worker configuration. Okay, so now it's going to make it dynamic, and this is back to what it was before, and it should say, okay, so it's going to update the auth tests to change serial to configure to 1 worker. Okay, I mean, it seems like the same thing, but this is more explicit to our issue, so that's good. The serial only serializes tests within a worker, right? So, so we want just 1 worker. We don't need to worry about this command. It's a bit of a different issue. So while this approach, the global config uses undefined, Playwright auto determines optimal workers, likely 4 based on your CPU. individual tests that need single workers explicitly declare. Okay, so this auth test is just going to declare 1, and then we're going to undefine the number of workers in the playwright config. So that should fix that. Okay, I'm happy with that, and let's see what else it's got over here. All right, so these are the fixes that it has applied for generating the report, so we'll give that a go. I like to just clear out like this, and then now we have a new terminal. Okay, so we'll do npm run test and then report, and without the quotes. Reports, npm run test report, did I mean test reports? What am I doing here? Oh, I see, npm run test report. That's my bad. And we have a whole lot of this going on. So we can just put that straight back in to Claude and see what it thinks. I get this when I run the generate script, which is generates. Where are you at? Where's my generate script at? Do we not have a generate? Where'd the generate script go? Did it rename it? Let's see the change files. Do we not even have a generate script? We don't. Okay, let's grab it from the other file. Let's go over to here, generate tests. I don't have control A. That's interesting. Okay. Oh boy, let's go back over to here. Now we've got to actually add the script. Generate report, test reports.ts, and then paste that in. I can't paste, I need to do it that way. Keyboard bindings. Okay, so that control is off the map then, got it. Okay, so now we can try running that again. Test report, and we get the same problem. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to do a stash and a pull just to make sure that I have the latest, because I already did set this all up, but we're up to date. So I don't know why I don't have that available, but I'll put a pin in it. We've got that set up, and I'll come back to it. Okay, in the meantime, let's just run the test and see if it actually runs. Okay, so npm run test e2e auth. We're still using 4 workers. We're still using 4 workers. So let's fix that. That's this one here, I think. The auth test. Auth spec test is still using 4 workers. And we'll do another plan mode. Yeah, it's kind of frustrating, but this is often how it goes with TDD in AI. All right, so I'm going to actually just focus on this one issue for the moment. Rather than trying to multitask too much, let's just focus on the number of workers that we have here, and I'll keep this ready to go to run the test again. In the meantime, let's head back over to do Magochi and see where we're up to. Okay, so this is a plan now. The problem is we're having the same problem in both of them, which is fine. We're sort of aligning this testing for both of these projects. Okay, so the test.md file uses relative paths. We need to update that. Should be relatively straightforward, and then that should be better than fixing the generate scripts parsing logic. So the generate scripts can stay the same. We just need to change the source files. So that's what that one will be. So let's go back over to quiz.win. It wants to fetch content. Okay, so it's getting a little bit confused, and now it's actually going to look up the documentation from Playwright. And that's a good idea, so we'll let it do that. And so that's for the number of workers. But let's run the test anyway. Hopefully it doesn't make things slow down too much. That's the whole reason I'm trying to avoid these multiple workers. But if it doesn't slow down things too much, it will be interesting to at least get this data. So let's see how it runs. See if it does run at all. It doesn't. We just get this. Okay. So this is a separate issue. We can open up a separate terminal, clear this, open this up, and just say I get these logs from, not from, but from the auth script this one right here, and then just paste it in, and there we go. Okay, and now we're back at this one. We're still fetching more content. Claude's doing some research to try and figure out how to set. So it says it sees the issue. The file was modified and the test describe configure workers1, it was removed. So it just needs to add it back in, but it's still fetching more content. So it's going to, I guess, confirm that it's theory. I think we just need to add it back in. So I'll just do that. I'll just say just add the worker count setting back in. And then I'll just actually paste in this just so it actually knows what I'm talking about. And then I'll just put it in brackets and do an accept edits. So we shouldn't need to do any of that research stuff. It should just need to fix this issue. I'm not sure why it kept researching after it identified that. So it's going to set that back to the right number. And this is for the individual test. So we're not doing a global configuration change. We're just saying this one test only needs one worker. So that should be fine. And then globally, I think it's undefined, which is allowing it to be any number of workers. Okay, so it's found the root cause of this issue here is when we tried to run that test, we just got minimal logs back. Yo, Gustavo, sorry if I took a while to notice you there. Gustavo says, how much do you pay for Claude per month? So I usually, well, it depends. If I go beyond the Pro Max 5x, then I sometimes need to go up to 20x. But for the most part, I only need to pay $100 US. I say only, it is a lot, but it is very, very much worth it. So that's about 155 in Australian. And welcome to the chat, Gustavo. I also noticed that we've got a few responses. I'm interested to hear what the something else is. So the people aren't using Lovable or Replit. I'm wondering if you're using a similar system to what I'm doing. But yeah, thanks for responding to the poll. Okay, install Playwright browsers. What are we doing here? Found the root cause. The test is failing because Playwright browsers are not installed. That's weird because it's working fine on the other repo, but I think I'll just install it because it shouldn't hurt. If it's already installed, it will just reinstall, but I have a feeling that it's confused. Okay, so now we've set the workers to 1 and we should be fixing this bug here. So once this is fixed, I'll run the test again. For now, let's go back over to Tamagotchi and see where we're up to here. Again, I have 2 projects, so feel free to have a look in the description for links to try them out. They're just basically portfolio projects that I get to run tests on. It's all about the tests. Okay, so it wants to run the test report generation to verify that it works. So let's do that ourselves instead. Open up a new terminal and just do npm run tests report. Yeah, currently I use cursor and plan mode. Okay, I've been using Composer model and it works really well with my stack, which is Flutter and Firebase. All right, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'm interested because my whole niche, you can check out a link to Gazzola.dev, but my niche is code reviews. So I'm building this platform which will enable people to design their own web app, and then build it using AI, and then you can submit for a code review. Thanks so much for everyone who subscribed. I see that the number's gone up. It's always such a huge, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so we've run the tests. The report is still getting 0, but we need to make sure that we actually have test results. So just in case, let's npm run test e2e auth. Pretty sure we already have this in here, but just there we go. Okay, so we're not actually getting anything returned from here now, which is kind of crazy because it was working before. So we need to fix that issue. Open up a new Claude and just explain that these are the logs from the auth test, auth spec test, and just paste that in. And then keep cruising. So it wanted to run that, but when we ran it, it looked like this, which wasn't good. So we can just copy it and share it with Claude so it doesn't have to run it. paste that in, and it can continue thinking. But it's the same problem as before, basically. It might also read the output file now. But yeah. Okay, so let's head back over to Tamagotchi. We just got a response here. Let's see what this is. It wants to list the auth tests. Okay. Okay, so it's going to debug by listing each of the cases inside of the auth tests. I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring right now, but it's very cute. Um, okay, it's very distracting too. Okay, so we want to run the auth test. Let's do that ourselves though. We'll just escape and do that ourselves. Open up a new terminal. npm run test e2e auth. If you didn't know that was a dog snoring, it would be distressing. But she's cool. She's fine. She's just breathing heavy. I want to at least see some logs here because so far it's just been failing out, but it's still a problem that we have 4 workers rather than just 1. Okay, so it's added the number of workers here to specify for the auth tests. We should just be getting 1, but we're still getting 4 and we're not getting any logs. Let's run it again just in case that changed. No, yeah, okay, so still 4 workers. It must be specifying in the test itself that it should be using those, you should be using 4 workers. So, but I'm just going to say still using 4. Where could this be set? Where could this be set? Check the configuration, check the config, check the test, and look for, and I'm not going to do a plan on this, look for the setting that is causing 4 workers to be used. Because it has to be set somewhere. What's probably happening is that Playwright is just determining if Playwright is dynamically determining the number of workers, then explain how. And then we can start to do a bit more troubleshooting. It's quite frustrating. So this is at quiz.win. The other one is to do Tamagotchi. There are links to both in the description. You can try them out. All right, so now it wants to run the auth test again. Let's do that ourselves. In a new one of these, clear this out. npm run test e2e auth, and just nothing. This is very frustrating, but we're going to keep cruising. Yeah, I'm trying to basically transplant my testing setup from one of my clients' projects that I've been working on lately into these projects. So this is all working in that other project, but I'm just trying to map it over. And I did have this running before the stream. I promise I did. I don't like to start a stream without the base functionality running. Yo, Justin, welcome to the chat. I was doom scrolling YouTube Shorts and it fed me your YouTube video just now. That's so cool. So that's why the discovery's gone up quite a bit by going into portrait mode. So the system works, you know, it's working. Thank you so much for dropping in and saying hello. I'm glad that I popped up in your feed. Okay, so debug the directory matching logic. What is it doing here? Okay, so it's setting the directory, logging. So we're doing like a manual. It's basically testing this pattern. So it's going to manually define this regex pattern and then manually define what the matching case should be. In this case, it's copying the name of the output directory that it needs to pass. And it's just going to manually run this script in line. So this is a bash command that's going to use node to run this script that it's defining here, which is going to simulate the exact logic that we're trying to resolve. So that's a good idea. Still frustrated, but it's good. Yeah, I had no choice. Yeah, there's no choice. I mean, you can scroll on, I suppose, or unsubscribe. But it's nice to be thrust upon the viewer. I don't know, it's just nice. It's convenient for me to get a few more viewers. So it's going to test it against the actual README content now. So rather than actually hard coding it, it's going to read the file now. Whereas before we were hard coding this value, now it's going to look it up and read it from the file itself. So it's one step closer to an actual reproduction of what we're trying to do. Should be very quick as well. So we can just wait for this to return because it's just a bash script. Okay. So now it says that the regex matches. Now let me trace through the actual script to describe, to see what's happening. Let me add some debug logging. So this worked, right? When it ran this, the regex matches. So the regex is matching. So now we're going to read the actual files, I guess. Simulate the find latest test results directory function. Okay, simulate. How's it going to simulate? We're going to grab that file, say that's the file name, and then it's going to get the test results to directory by searching for it by that name and the latest timestamp. Okay, so this is again one step closer to a one-to-one reproduction of what we're doing. And this is what I would usually do as well. It's just I wouldn't be able to do it this well and this fast. But it's basically breaking it down to first principles. Okay, so when it does this, I'm always skeptical, but it says it has the idea. The old directories don't match the timestamp patterns. Okay. Okay. Test the timestamp pattern. Okay, so no, now we're getting somewhere. So instead, I'm going to delete all of the old directories, just clear out every single folder in here because this was from a previous test output script. So we want to make sure that the format of the output script matches what the report script is expecting. So let's delete all this stuff, move it into the trash, and then now we need to explain what's going on. So make sure, I'll actually say read the testing file and make sure that the tests are outputting the directory in the formats that the generate script expects. And I'll also say to read like a companion file here, which is testutil.md. And we're going to do a plan here so it can tell me what's going on. But basically, it's just the format of the output file that the test runs needs to match the expectations of the script that actually passes those output files. So it's basically backwards. It was trying to fix the generate script to pass the file structure differently, but instead we need to make sure that the output files are what the script expects. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce your name there. Relatos del otro lado. I do not use Claude. I am 100% free to win. Free to win? Okay, cool. So what do you use instead? How do you win for free? Because I'd like to do that too. So let's not run this in here. Instead, I'm going to run it manually. Let's do a clear and then npm run tests e2e auth. Okay, we're still doing 4 workers, but that's not currently the issue. Well, it is. We're still getting 4 workers. Okay, look. It's still getting 4 workers. 4 workers. Please answer my question. So, like, stop doing other stuff and just help me diagnose by answering the question. The question was, where is this value being set? So what is determining the number of workers? So I'm wondering, like, is it the configuration? Is Playwright dynamically determining that 4 workers should be used? Okay, so its solution, what have we got here? Right, so why we're getting 4 workers? The Playwright config has this set. When workers is set to undefined, which happens when not set in CI, Playwright automatically determines the number of workers based on your CPU cores. Okay, so the solution here is to set the global workers to 1. This forces all tests to use 1 worker, but I need 2 workers sometimes, for example, when If it's a messaging test, they have to message back and forth and show that it's instantly updating. So the other thing is the environment variable approach. This is actually what I said to do before, but I think that the CI variable is different. So I think we need to do this one so we can actually determine, no, so this is hard coding the number of workers in a different way. Okay, so per project workers, see this isn't good either. We want it to be per test. So how do I set the number of workers for specific to each test? So I'll try that, see what it comes back with. And then I'm going to close this so we can just clean it up a little bit. And in the meantime, we'll go back over to the other project, which is to do Magotchi. Links in the description for both of them. Okay, so now it's comparing the output format of the test files compared to the generate report format. So one of them is creating these files that the other is reading. We need to make sure that they align on the format. So test the actual format being created. So this is going to run the script. Which script is this? I can't see it anymore. But it is either going to run the test or the generate. Okay, so now it knows the format. We've got a pattern here defined. It's going to run it against the actual format of the output directory name, and then it's going to confirm that the regex works. We'll stay tuned for your TDD practices. I appreciate that, Relatos. I'm not sure how to say your name, but welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for jumping in the chat. And yeah, I'm going to be doing TDD every other day at around this time, so feel free to drop back in and see how it progresses. I hope to be getting a lot better very fast, so you should see some changes between each streams. Okay, so now we're still doing the same process of refining to make sure that the regex is matching. So you go ahead and do that. Okay, and then what else are we doing here? It wants to run the auth test again. What has it changed? The reporter looks fine. The issue is, okay, so I'm actually going to leave this because we're doing we're using two different agents to work on the same content. So let's focus on one agent to make sure that we get it right and we don't have any conflicts. Okay, so it's still doing compare the test outputs. Okay. So we're refining. It seems like we're heading in the right direction. We just need to get the output aligning with the generate script. And these should be running pretty quickly, so I should just be able to wait for this to return. Okay, so we're still doing it. Test file name extraction logic. This shouldn't be as complex as it's like, getting at. So it should be a lot more simple. Simply look at the output format of the format of the directory. Oh my goodness, my keyboard bindings right before the stream I reset. Anyway, simply look at the format of the directory that is output by the test and compare that to the formats of the format that the generate script is expecting. Make the output of the tests align with the expectations of the generate script. Yo, Henry, welcome to the chat. How you doing today? What's going on? What's new? So this should be relatively simple. It's gotten bogged down with the regex parsing logic, but it should be straightforward. This is one of those things that's easy to build from scratch, but if you're trying to trying to bring it from another project, then all these misalignments, these details, these additions and changes, that's where it gets confused. So I'm kind of trying to get it to go back to first principles, just look at how the format is being generated and look at how it's being expected, make it align. So we'll let that think, and we only have one agent open in this project. So back over to do Magotchi. Feeling a bit tired, Henry? What have you been up to? I'm a bit tired too. I took a day off yesterday because I did an all-nighter finishing up a client project. Okay, yeah, the topic of the day, and look at this, how neat, this is neat, right? So we can see in the background when it's generating, so I'll bring up the topic while Claude's generating. But the topic is the AI amplification asymmetry, and just to briefly cover it right now, the idea is that AI tools provide dramatically more leverage to individuals than to organizations, inverting the traditional economics of scale. And I think this is going to have huge impacts moving forward in the future. Okay, so it wants to fetch. Why are you fetching now? How do I set the number of workers specific to each test? We're still on the workers issue, trying to get just enough workers for the tests. It's trying to do 4, so it's like it runs faster, but then it's going to take up more computational power. And I want to run these tests in parallel. So if we start doing parallel upon parallel, then it's going to start slowing things down. Okay, so based on the Playwright docs, Playwright does not support setting workers per individual test file. The worker configuration is globally controlled. Okay, what this does, test describe configure actually does. So when we set the mode to serial and the number of workers, it doesn't work. It's not a valid option. All right. So this only accepts that. My options are to run different test files with different worker counts. Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just do that. That's fine. So we want to do this option. Do option one. Do option one by adding the number of workers to the test scripts in the package.json. Starting to get cold hands. I'm going to put gloves on in a moment. Which does kind of like, you can't really see them as much when I put gloves on, but I got to be able to type and my hands get all frozen. Okay, so just get this back. Yeah, see this, it's now really dim. You can kind of see my fingertips though. Okay, so here's Claude's plan. Add worker configuration to the test scripts. Nice. So this should be all good to go. We're only going to add it to this test right here. And all we need to do is pass in a flag that sets the number of workers. That sounds good, and that should tick that box, and then we shouldn't have the 4 workers running a very simple test. We should just have 1. Back over at Tadumagotchi, I'll warm up my hands and then I'll ditch the gloves soon. Yeah, so the asymmetry of AI is what we're chatting about today, Henry. When I get to a lull, when I'm waiting for stuff to generate, that's when I'll chat about it. All right, so Claude's plan is to fix the test report generation. Right, so all we need to do is align the format that it's being created in with the format it's expected to be read in. Okay, that's good. Test if they match and fix any discrepancies, go for it. So that should be good. In the meantime, how is this test running at the moment? E2E auth. And we're just getting nothing back. So that previous, like this one right here, this is working on, I mean, I just ran it, but we'll let it run again. See, we're just getting this running 0 tests and then reporting nothing back. It created the directory though. So for this purpose, it's working because we're trying to figure out the directory creation. In the meantime though, let's also try and fix the actual problem that the test isn't running anything. It's returning 0 tests. When I run the auth spec tests, this one, I get these logs. And it didn't paste in. Let's paste that in. And I think my hands are warm enough now. I think it does add something to have these hands here, so I'll try and keep them. I can see the issue. Playwright is running 0 tests. Yes. Okay, found the issue. Looking at the Playwright config, 2 projects. Invitations only runs the invitation spec, and the other test runs all tests except for the invitation spec with test ignore. Both projects have workers 2 and workers 1. So that's how we were previously setting the number of workers. Okay, so we want to say, exit out of this and say, instead, remove that logic. remove the separation between the invitations test and the other tests. And then I'll just put in brackets, the worker count config is handled separately elsewhere. Elsewhere is a great word. It reminds me of David Elsewhere, the dancer, because he looks, apparently it came from the idea that he looks like he goes elsewhere when he dances. Okay, so this is going to do the same thing that we've been doing. I guess it's just going to confirm now. It has found, like we ran the test, we got the output directory, and so now it's looking at that directory that we got, but it is unknown. That's a problem. So why are you checking output directory name? If so, that's a problem. That's a problem. And then just answer, please. So it's not going to go off on a tangent. It's not going to try and make any changes. That's why I just say don't, just answer. Okay, and then that is the suggested change for this chat. So it's going to remove the project separation. So now we're just going to use the same number of workers for all of the tests, at least in the configuration. The difference is, what it has fixed is when we're running these tests, there should be a number of workers in the actual script. So maybe if it has applied it, goodness, workers, okay, it hasn't applied it yet, but that's where we should set the actual number of workers. The generated directory name, okay, so looking at the consolidated reporter, it's trying to get the test file name from this, but it appears to be failing, defaulting to unknown. This is a problem because the generate script looks for the directories matching pattern auth, but the actual directory is named unknown. Okay, so fix that so that, let's say, each test should generate the output directory with the name of the test, with the file name. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's start that again. Each test should generate the output directory with the name of the test in the directory name, replacing unknown. Unknown. And then I'll do a plan on that so it can explain how it's going to do that. We're kind of getting a bit long on this chat as well, so I'll start a new one soon. Okay, so we have simplified the playwright configuration to use a single project. That's good. Let's try running the test again. Still getting 0. Is this okay? Then what we can do is just do the same thing that we started with. Okay, so I'm still getting these logs like that. Okay, and then back over here, this is where we're trying to fix the output directory. So we shouldn't have unknown in the output directory name. It should have the actual file name. So the solution is to update the reporter, which is generating the output directory, to get the test file name from the config instead of the suite. So currently we're getting the suites, getting all tests, getting the first one, and then the location file splits. Okay, so instead of getting the file name from the test suite, we're going to get it from the first test, which is, okay, well, it's the same thing. We're getting the first test here. This is, or more simply, it's going to extract the test directory pattern or use a more robust approach by checking the suite project info. Okay. It was changed to use a single Korean project. Okay. Right. So the problem is that the reporter runs in the onBegin hook. That happens before the tests are fully loaded in the new project structure. All right. More simply, extract the test directory pattern or use a more robust approach by checking the suite project info. It seems like there could be a much simpler method. So what is a simpler method? I just need, I only need each test to have a unique identifier in the output directory name, output dir name that will enable the generate report script to identify which of the tests the output has come from. And so what is a simpler method? So now only answer. Okay, and we also have this open. It's wanting to run all of the tests. Oh, it wants to list all the tests. So what is it actually doing here? Yeah, so this is where we're still getting 0 tests run when we run the auth tests. And so what is it wanting to do here? It wants to just list all the tests, so it's doing some diagnostics. That'll be fine. Okay, so use the project name from the config. The consolidated reporter can access it with config project's name, okay, which would be Chromium currently. We need each test to have their own name, or we could set unique project names per test file. Alternatively, even simpler, use suite title, which would give you the test suite name. Yeah, do that, man. Do the test title. The test title, make it, snake case, I think we'll call it. Snake case, which is just using underscores instead of spaces so that we can use it in the directory title without escaping those underscores. Okay, so run auth test with list reporter to bypass custom reporter. All right, do that just to see what comes back. Okay, it looks like it had a conflict with running 3000. I don't want you to deal with that. So no, the test should use its own server. It might be trying to run it at 3000. Okay, look, it tried to run error 3000 is already used. Okay. The issue is that it's designed to extract the port from better auth URL. Right, okay. If that's set to 3000, okay, so instead we will just kill the local server and say I'll say retry the script. I killed 3000, which is a weird thing to write, but it should just have the port be free now. Yes, you can run that again. And let's see if it does the same thing, which is just say that there's no test to run. But if it says anything other than that, then there we go. Okay, so now running all the tests. Looks like the first one passed. So that's good. That's a step in the right direction. We also have this one right here in the same project at Todoomgotchi. Again, links in the description. Okay, so fix the directory naming, use suite title in snake case, update the reporter to use the suite title converted to snake case. Okay, go for it. We are making progress, slowly but surely. This is failing, but it is running. What are we up to here? Which number? Doesn't actually say. But it shouldn't take more than 1 minute. I think the timeout for the whole test is 1 minute, so I'll leave that for now. And we can go over to quiz.win, which is the other project that we're working on. Okay, so now we are explicitly setting the number of workers to 1. Let's try running it. Let's do that again. See if we get 1 worker. Workers 1, you can see that flag being passed in there. 1 worker, okay, so there we go, and that's a pattern I can remember now. So next time it won't take me as long. But the whole idea here is to create a reproducible testing environment that I can then quickly set up in any project, because my niche is testing. So if you are a vibe coder, then you could benefit from testing, and you can send in an application for a free test review at gazzola.dev. And then I'll do what I'm doing here. which is to very thoroughly go through and figure out how your app is meant to work and how we can make sure that it is in fact working that way. Okay, so we have progress. The right number of workers are running, so I can now clear this out. I just do Control-C a few times and then type clear. So that absolutely clears out all of the terminal history as well as the Claude history, and I start up a new Claude instance. And then we just need to say, I'm getting this from the auth suite. I know there's a bit of repetition in this stuff, but this is the way that it often works. With AI development, it's kind of just like cycling things through. But we are making progress. So the progress that we've made over here is we've set things up like this. So now the workers are set in each of the test script calls. So we have this flag here that actually determines the number of workers because we can't configure that per test in Playwright. So we have to do it this way. And that is progress. And we don't need it to run this. I mean, it doesn't hurt because it's going to take 2 seconds to see the same results. And then back over at To Do Mogochi. Let's see here. The tests are now running successfully. We've got 7 passing, 3 failing. The 3 failing are these ones. Okay, all failures have the same issue. After submitting sign up or sign in, it does not redirect to the home page within 15 seconds. Okay, so what do these screenshots show? And we'll do, what are we doing here? A not accept edits and not plan, so it should just answer the question, hopefully. It's going to actually look at these screenshot files and tell me what it's seeing, and that really helps. So the screenshot shows the sign-in page is still displayed after the form submission, the email verified. There's a message saying you can sign in with a fake email address. Okay. The password is filled. All right. This indicates that after clicking the sign in button, the page didn't redirect to the home page. What is the timeout? Timeouts on the redirect, because I think we need it to, I'll say make the timeout for the redirects 15 seconds. Okay, and then I'll clear this. After it's done that, we'll run it again, see if that helps. This should take like 2 seconds to do. So then we'll run the auth test once that's done and see if that helps. Because in theory, I think it's just a slow connection because I did have this test passing. I had this all working before starting the stream, and then I start the stream and none of it's working. So, all right, so check if the dev server is running here. Why? The test appears to be hanging or timing out. Okay, the dev server is running at 3000, but I'll let it figure that out itself. And go back and see if this is done. Okay, so it's extended the timeout. Let's run the test again. And now we should actually see it step through. So the first, let's go, come on. There we go. All right, so why is it showing 4 hours? Oh my gosh. Next stream, it's going to be all good to go before I even start. Looks like it's skipping all these and just going straight on to the, unless these are going to get checked off soon, or what's going on here? It seems like it's just skipped all these. Okay, should require all fields for sign up, should redirect to home. All right, so let's clear this out. And what I like to do is just refer to my prompts file, which has a few sort of prompt commands. One of them is test output. That will help it to find the output file for the auth spec test. And then I can say, are all the tests running? It looks like it's skipping the first. So only answer and provide information. Don't do anything else. Are the first 3 tests running? 3 tests running. It looks like they're being skipped. So it's going to read and assess and look at these screenshots. Let's get rid of that and just send that off too. It's going to read the output and assess. It's going to look at the screenshots, but then it's also going to answer my question here. All the assessment stuff is in this test output prompt that I've included. It refers back to that prompting file that I have. Okay, looking at the test output you've shown in the test file, I can provide some information. The tests shown in your outputs are actually 8, 9, and 10. 8, 9, and 10, okay. The last 3 tests, not the first 3, they are running in this order. Okay, about the first 3 tests. The first 3 tests in the file are, okay, they might appear skipped without seeing the complete test output. Make the test output the default logs, playwright logs. Playwright logs rather than the concise logs. See again, this was all working. But it will be again, we'll get it working again. The dev server is running in the background. I see the issue. The dev server is likely not starting properly. The test is hanging because the web server configuration is trying to start the dev server automatically, but it seems to be waiting for the server to be ready. Okay, so 3000 and 3001 are occupied, and this is running at, I think 3000, and it's just 3000 are occupied. The local host is at 3000. Okay. Okay, good. The dev server is already running on 3000. The issue is that the playwright test is hanging. Let me try running the test again with more verbose output. So yes. But before it does that though, which port is the test expecting, is the test trying to access, trying to run on? Yeah, and then I'll come back to that. So this is back at to do Magotchi, and I think the thing that we're trying to do now is to make the output verbose. So we just want to have all the output in there rather than the condensed logs. And the change it wants to make is this one, which is to just use its regular list reporter. So this is in the playwright configuration, and this is removing the custom reporter that was added here. So this is just to try and get the full picture of what's going on without any of the filtering to remove any of the data. Okay, in the meantime, this one was to fix the consolidated reporter. Did we just remove that? Let me check the playwright config. This one here, consolidated, these shortcuts, consolidated. Okay, so it's not included in here. It might be that we've just removed the feature that actually gets the data prepared. Yeah, so now we're not using this consolidated reporter. It means, and also we've removed the output directory here. And it's using a conditional check to either, it's so much going on now. We've changed a few things. The idea that I'm trying to get through is to have a consistent method of reporting everything so that when we run the script and that when the output files go through, it knows how to generate a report from those output files. It's getting a little bit messy though. Okay, so I've changed the reporter from the custom consolidated reporter to just use the lists. So now when we run the test, we should see all the outputs. I'm going to start closing these so we just have one for each project. We can close this one off too, and we'll clear it out. Open up a fresh one just to get a blank slate, and now we'll run that test again. Okay. Now we should have the verbose logging here. Oh my gosh, 3000 is already used. Make sure nothing is running on 3000. That shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to open up Claude again. Say I get this when I run the auth spec test, the playwright should use whatever port is available, and paste that in like that. And then head back over to the other project, quiz.win. All right, so which port is it trying to run on? Looking at playwright, it is trying to run on 3000. It should just run on whatever port is available. So we have the same problem on both of these. We just want it to run on whatever's available. We currently have 3000 and 3001 occupied, so it should basically figure that out and then make a new one. Okay, yeah, so I'm also checking the poll here. We got 12 votes. Thank you so much for voting. Most people aren't vibe coders, but those that are, we have a small representation equally in Lovable and Replit, and most use something else. So a chatter earlier mentioned that they use, I don't use Claude. What did they say? Gustavo mentioned that they use Cursor and Plan Mode. They've been using Composer, and it works really well, which is very cool. Feel free to let me know what type of AI you're using if you are. I'm using Claude, as you can see. I find it works really well. So do I want to make this change to the playwright config? It wants to get the port. Okay, either get the process env port or set it to 3002. The port variable process.env.port. This isn't what I wanted. I want it to dynamically determine it. That's not what I'm after. So that's hard coding the ports to the env var. I want playwright to run, to just look, to follow the same process that the local dev server follows, which is to attempt to start on 3000, then increment the port number until one is available. So that's what I want you to do. Hopefully it can do that. Back over to Doomagotchi, it is wanting to make that change, which is in the context of, yeah, so it's trying to do the same thing. Maybe we should just try and do one at a time. So since we're solving the same problem, I'm going to solve it at quiz.win first. All right, so you want playwright to use the same port. That Next.js, okay, yes, let me update the configuration to remove the hard-coded port and let Next.js handle port selection. Shouldn't we let playwright? So it's going to remove that, and it's going to just say reuse existing server. So let's actually just say, oops, no. Explain how this works concisely, and then answer only. Don't do other stuff. Explain how that works. I don't really want to start on anything else until I get this sorted. Okay, so the configuration tells playwright to always try to connect on 3000. Reuse any existing server on that port. If no server exists, start one with npm run dev. Okay, so I don't want it to use any existing server. It should just start one on whatever is available. Go for that. And then once we have this set up, I'll just copy it to my other project and get that to do the same thing, because it should create its own server, and it should be different from the ones that are currently running. So we're removing this, which was previously setting the base URL, so we're not doing that anymore. Instead, we're setting in the web server config, setting it to 3000 initially with no reuse existing server. So now I'll get it to explain how that works. You know what, I can just clear that, and then, yeah, that's the previous one. Use that same answer. Concisely explain how it works, only answer. And it looks like we have thinking on, so I'm actually going to turn thinking off. That's with backspace tab, I think is what that shortcut is. Thinking just means that it processes your request before it starts processing it. Like it looks at what you're saying first and then it tries to answer it. We don't need that at the moment. Okay, so using port 3000 instead of URL, Playwright tries 3000. If it's occupied, it automatically increments, starts the dev server, okay, and then auto sets the base URL to whatever the dev server is starting on. So I'll say do that and then accept edits. So now it'll apply the test that it was previously suggesting to apply. Okay, and then once that has fixed, we can then, okay, so now give me a brief summary of that approach. So no, we didn't need to run that. Give me a brief summary of that approach so I can reproduce it. And then I'll paste it straight into this other one. But in the meantime, we can now try running that test, E2E auth. And that's interesting. It incremented. So let's try that again. Okay, so it didn't increment. We're still trying to run 0 tests. What's going on here? It's not actually clearing. It's weird. So let's try running that again. Okay, I don't know what happened before. It didn't clear it properly. So let's copy this. All right. I'm going to copy this first, and this is what we're going to use in the other project to get the same effect. So I'm going to say no, and then I'm just going to paste this straight in and do a plan and make sure it understands what I'm saying, and it will reproduce that same thing. But the good news is we got past that error, and we're now running that test properly here. We're just still getting 0 tests actually running. So what I want to do is I think the issue is in the logger. So let's clear out of this too and start another one and just say what's happening. So I'm getting these logs from the auth test and then paste that in. I think the issue is related to the consolidated reporter. And instead, so I'll say remove that reporter and use the default Playwright reporter, or whatever it's called, logger, I guess. This will need to be replaced because we need the functionality of the consolidated reporter. But if we can remove it and get the test to run, then we can add it back in. Okay, so the Playwright config file is using custom consolidated reporter. And now it's just going to presumably remove that. So it's just that one line, and we're using HTML. I don't want HTML though, so don't use the HTML reporter. Use the list, I think it's called. Use the list. And just, I'm still asking it to do it because I'm not sure if that's the actual name. There you go, it is called list. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And then back over it to Tamagotchi. This is applying that same fix, so we can have a look at how it's doing that. So we're no longer getting the port like this dynamically, and we're removing the hard coding setting of the base URL, and instead it is just going to run the npm run dev command. It's going to try at 3000 and it will increment if it can't get it. So accept that and head back over to quiz.win. Okay, so now let's try running this again, same test, and now it should use the verbose, and we have the same issue, saying 3000 is already in use. We can just kill the server and let it run on 3000, but the whole idea is that it increments. So I think that we still have the same chat open that used the fix. Okay, investigate with the Playwright, just making sure this is the right chat. I can see the issue Playwright is configured using custom consolidated reporter. So this is a different chat. So let's clear this out and open up a new one and just explain again that the test should should create a server on whatever port is available. I'm getting this log, getting these logs because the 3000 port is unavailable. If that's the case, then it should just increment and use 3001 or 3002, etc. Paste that. Oh no, I just cleared it. Oh my god. All right, so look, I'm getting these logs from the auth test because the config is trying to use the 3000 port. Instead, it should use try to run the dev server at whatever port is available. Sorry to repeat that. I accidentally cleared it out. Whatever port is available, try 3000. If not, then 3001 etc. Okay, now paste this in carefully now, and then send that off. And yeah, we're still doing the same thing, but once it's sorted, then I'll have a reproducible thing to work from. The other thing I can do next time is kind of have my other project off screen. I just can't share the code live because it's a client's project, but I have all the testing there. I just completed a project actually doing a full testing restore or a test report. So I've got 100% passing, and now I'm just trying to reproduce it in these other projects. Okay, so I've updated the playwright configuration with the following changes. Remove the get port. So this was the previous. Let's see if this one works, because I think we're going to get the same issue. And yeah, so let's go back over to this and see how it intends to fix it. Just a quick mention, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. This is Gazzola.dev. If you're building a web app, then you might be interested to submit for a free code review. Just a quick plug there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. All right, so the issue is that the playwright config is hard-coded to use port 3000 and has reuse existing server false. It'll update it to dynamically find an available port. Let me create a solution that tries ports sequentially. I don't understand why. I mean, that's fine. Let me have a look at the actual approach that it's using here. Yeah, this is complex. So it's going to go through each of the ports and try and find whatever one is first available. How is it actually testing this? This just seems like it's way too complex. Let me say, is there a method to do this via the playwright config? Because it's kind of strange if it isn't. I'm kind of running into the same issues in both of these projects though, so I'm not really wanting to split my attention between the two. So Playwright has a simpler built-in solution. You can omit the port field and use URL instead. Okay, let's have a look at those changes. So we've removed the port field and we are using URL. So then it's just going to use localhost 3000. We're using existing server. The cleanest approach is to let Playwright handle port detection automatically by using the URL field without specifying a port. It looks like that's just hard coding 3000, because it does. I guess it's taken that away now, but look at right here, instead of setting the port to 3000, it was setting the URL, and so yeah, I'm right, it's still hard coding the 3000. So it doesn't have a built-in find available port feature. You can simply set reuse existing port, which will allow the test to use an already running dev server. See, the problem is we have multiple servers. I have like 2 or 3 projects running all the time, and I need it to figure out which one to use. I think we've got to simplify it. We've got to simplify it down and just say instead, and in fact, it might even be in the previous version. If we go to the git changes, I think initially we had the base URL it should be configured. It was hard coded to 3000, but I think that we just need to hard code it to the URL in the process env vars. So I'll say instead hard code the port or the URL, to the better off URL in the env vars. So that's a bit of a trade-off. I was hoping to be able to just let the Playwright server create its own server, but what we're going to do instead is have a server running like we do down here, and then just refer the Playwright config to use that server instead. And that's what I had initially. Let's have a look at how it's doing this. So it's getting the base URL here, defaulting to 3000 if we don't have it, and then it's just adding the base URL. That's good. So do that. And we need to tell this project to do the same thing. So we can actually use the same chat here. Instead, use the better off URL in the env vars as the base URL in the Playwright config. And we'll do an accept edits on that. That should be okay. All right, so let's now try this. It has apparently done it. So we'll do an npm run tests e2e, and we want a colon, not a semicolon, and then run that. We're using one worker. We have the default logging now. This is progress, and it is in fact starting. So that means it's starting on the local server. We should see the pings down here, but we've got a fail. So let's see how it's failing now. And let's also see if we have the output logs working correctly. So that should be in the test results. I've omitted this from Git, so it's not going to fill up the Git history. This is what the README looks like from the output. We've got nothing. So that's another issue. But before we even look into that, I want to see why the test is actually failing. It's not actually going to the initial thing. So since we don't have the output logs, I'll just copy all of this. And this seems to be an initial error, like we're not even getting past this first thing. So let's figure out what is blocking. And so we'll just say these logs are from the auth test, paste that in. And then we want to say, actually, I'm just going to leave it like that. Just say be concise. We can then look at the latest output dir in test results like this. Sorry, I thought I just heard something. Okay, and then hit go on that. I thought I just heard my dog like make a yelp. She seems alright though. Okay, so the issue is the base URL is 3000, but the test navigated to 3001. The web server config should auto start the dev server. So this is at quiz.win, which is running at which port? It should be running at 3000. Okay, so we have two things happening. It's setting up as 3000, but then it's redirecting to 3001. The quick fix is to manually start the dev server first. The 3001 in the error might be coming from your test or cached config. Check your env. The server is running at 3000. Make sure that the env vars are set to 3000 and that the other files are reading. And we need to actually say which env var. The better off URL env var is set to 3000 and the other files are reading this var correctly. And that should fix that problem. Back over at Tadumagotchi. Okay, so now it's done the same thing. So now they are both aligned on like which port it should be running on. So let's run the E2E test again. And still getting nothing. It's already used, so it's trying to do 3000, whereas here, oh, we need to run the dev server. So let's run the dev server, and we should be running at 3001. Yes. Okay, let's try it again. And 3000 is already used, so it seems like this last fix wasn't applied properly. It's added the base URL. Okay. Make sure that the better auth URL in the env vars is set to 3001, and make sure that's actually 3001, and make sure that everywhere in the repo uses this port. Okay, go for that, because I will also just paste in what came out. Say these are the logs. So that's what I'm getting, just for a bit of context. Doesn't even really need that, but we'll do a plan mode on that, just so it does a bit of extra research to get an idea of how it should fix it. So the env ports 3001, good, no hard-coded 3001. The .env has port 3001, updating to 3000. Okay, so that's what's happened, we've switched. Okay, so that's fine. Now that we've figured out the switch, we should just switch it back. Okay, so it is, all right, so this one is now running at 3000, and we have that correctly set down here. We're running at 3000. Everywhere is detailed as being at 3000. Let's now run it again. And then in the meantime, the other tests should be running at 3001. And so we should have it all aligned. Got to see a tick. Let's see a tick. It does take a while because it is doing the E2E of the full flow. It's signing up, signing out, and then signing in again. Okay. All right, so what is going on here? And we have the context. Expected the sign-up form should be visible. Observed sign-up form not found. Okay. Where was it running is my next question. Let's head back over to the other project and finish off this pattern first. Okay, update the port from 3000 to 3001 throughout the repository. Change the better auth URL to 3001. Change that to update the playwright config. So we need to say the URL, the port, let's say the ports /URL needs to be dynamically determined. No, it needs to be determined from read from the env vars throughout the repo. Only fallbacks should be hard-coded. Okay, because right now it's saying that it wants to set these env vars, but then in the playwright config, it's saying it wants to change the port to 3000. From 3000 to 3001, we need that to be dynamic so that I can change it as we need to. Okay, and I'm going to accept that because the only difference was what I suggested there. Let's clear this, then when it's ready, we'll run it again. In the meantime, we got these results coming back. I'm going to copy them again, and I'm going to use the same chat so that it has the context that we had before. Because the context here is that we've set it to 3000. We are running at 3000. Just got to double check that. We are running at 3000. But we're still getting this error. So by pasting all that in to this chat, it should have the context about that port, so it can rule that out potentially. The page loads, but the sign-up form isn't visible. Let me check the screenshot, error, and error contexts. Okay, cool. So it's read the output directory. It's going to read the screenshot, and it's getting a 404. Okay, so the auth sign-up doesn't exist. The routes are sign in and not sign up. So that's interesting that it did that. List auth directory contact. Okay, let me check what pages exist. So we don't need it to check. But you know what? I'll let it because it's going to find that. Okay, no, I don't need to. I'll just say remove the auth segment. It's gotten confused. I'll show you why that's from all the links. I'll show you why it got confused. So in Next.js, all of the routing is configured through the directory structure. And this is the problematic directory here, the auth one. When they are in brackets, that's actually a grouped directory. So it's not included as a segment. So for example, this API directory here, that will actually have a segment. So it will be /API/auth, whatever. But with this one, it will just be whatever this is. So sign in will be a base root route, just /sign in. There's no auth. But it has gotten confused because it tried to compute the pathway and it came up with auth sign up rather than just sign up. So now we can try running that again. Let's clear it out and then we'll run that test again. And we might get a green tick. You never know. I'll consider this stream a victory if we get a full passing test on either project, I will say. That'll be a win for me. Just a quick plug. Feel free to, thank you so much for whoever is subscribing. I really appreciate you. Feel free to check out gazzola.dev to learn how to build your own web app using AI. This will teach you how to put together your directory, your output download directory that you can then paste into your project and refer your AI to it, and it will be able to build your app for you. And then you might want to ask for a free code review. So that's my quick plug. Got to do a plug. Okay, so the test is failing. How and why is this now failing? So I'm going to keep the same chat open because that will rule out both the port and the navigation issue, but I'll just paste it straight in and we'll do a plan mode. Heading back over to the other project now to do Tamagotchi. Okay, so it's updated the configuration. Let's see what we're up to with the tests here. Running the auth test into Tamagotchi. 3001 is already used. Okay, but that's fine. That's where the test is running. So let's copy this over to here, over to here. Okay, it will start the dev server on port 3001, avoiding conflicts. The actual app, the actual local dev server is already running at 3001. The playwright test needs to use this port for its testing. I'll do an accept edits on that. Thanks for responding to the poll. It looks like the something else is kind of the lead here. Most people aren't vibe coders, which is interesting. I actually think that's going to change. I think it's going to become so easy and so useful that pretty much everyone will be vibe coding. All right, so it has changed it to reuse. So now we are reusing the existing server, which will be better. That's what we want. Let's try running that test again and see how it goes. 4 workers. Oh my gosh, 4 workers. Let's hit the brakes, and I'm going to manually fix this because now I know the trick. We want to go to the E2E auth, and we want to go -- workers equals 1. And I will do that for this as well. Let's copy this. And even when it's in the headed mode, we want to do that same thing. Oh my gosh, because my keyboard shortcuts. There we go, that'll do. And save that like that. Okay, let's clear this out and then run it again. And now we should have 1 worker. Great. So now we hopefully might see some ticks. But at least we're running, and we're running with 1 worker, and it should be running on the right port. We have the foundations set up. So hopefully, I'll come back to that. I kind of just want to see 1 tick, but I'll come back to that. In the meantime, this one, what are we up to here? So I just fed back in the error here. So it needs to investigate why the signup form isn't visible. So it's going to read the output file. And it can look at the screenshot and everything like that. In the meanwhile, this is the test report. We got 1 passing test out of 5, but a lot of fails, and the logging is really weird, really weird. It is still running though. It looks like it tried to generate the output before the whole thing was finished, but it is still running. So let's see what the other tests come back with. In the meantime, I'm just going to read these logs. Okay, so this is the conditions. This isn't really useful. This isn't really useful, but we do have some ticks. We have some check marks coming through. Very cool. So at least it's progress. So I'll let that finish and we'll come back to that. This is still reading these files to try and determine why these tests aren't passing. But we might be able to get both of these going today. I will need to wrap up relatively soon, but I have a bit of a deadline, but I want to get these tests passing. Okay, so we have 2 failed and 8 passed. Let's just throw these straight back into the chat. And I'm going to do so in the same chat. Yeah, I got to fix these logs, but it is recording everything. It's just doing so in a very verbose way. It should also have access to the output directory, which is usually how I refer to everything. I just don't really trust that at the moment because we're making a lot of changes. So I'm just pasting the actual logs, then it can look up any additional information that it needs to. And then over here, we finished this test, we've put that back in, we got 1 failing, and so now it's going to investigate. Okay, so that's looking into that, and that's looking into that. So while that's happening, the topic for the day is the AI amplification asymmetry, which is essentially saying that individuals have more to gain from AI than organizations. So I'll chat about that in a little bit, but there's also a link in the description below to that chat conversation if you'd like to learn a bit more about that or read it. Okay, so why are you reading this? I can see the tests are running, but 2 are failing because the sign-up form submission isn't redirecting to home. The error logs show toast visible, but no. Okay. So I don't want it to look at this. It's trying to look at the backend logic for the authentication, but this isn't where the redirect is happening. The redirect should be happening from the hook, sign in or sign up hook. Okay, so that, but then also, what do the screenshots show? Do the screenshots show? And we're going to do a plan because that should allow it to figure out where the hooks are and how they work, and then make a plan as to how it's going to fix that. Okay, so the current situation, this is at quiz.win now. The sign-in page is a development-only tool. What? That uses shared password. Oh, right. Okay, so has no test IDs. Okay. The E2E expects the... Okay, cool. So it's just the design. So this is all because if you check out quiz.win, it looks like this. Let's sign out so I can show you what it looks like. It's a little bit zoomed out, but that's just because I've got to get it to fit on the screen. But this is what you'll see if you visit quiz.win in a second. It basically makes it easy for people to sign in and try out the app without actually creating an account. But we don't have the UI displaying it all right now, which is odd. Okay. I'll show you what it looks like, what it should look like. Quiz.win. So it should look like this, where we have a list of all the possible users that you can sign in as, and then yeah, sign in. So let's figure out why this isn't loading at all. Before we even run the test, we need to figure out why this isn't loading. Are we getting anything in the console, first of all? Doesn't look like anything at all in here. Okay. That's a really, I don't know why there's absolutely nothing in the console, but okay, so let's see if we are getting anything from here. Failed to find server action. Okay, from an older development. It could be because we're running at 3000 and it's expecting 3001. Oh, you know what it is? We're on the wrong port. So let's actually go to 3000 here. And then this should actually render the correct site. Here we go. Yeah, it's because I signed out, they switched. And so when I hit the sign out button, it directed to the other app. So now we should see the actual sign in logic. Here we go. And this is what it looks like, and this is why the test is confused. So instead of actually signing in using the traditional sign-in buttons, we need to adjust it. So we need to say one of these options, or I might even start a new prompt. Create a popper. Okay, so no. What I want to do instead is escape out of this and say, look at the sign-in page. I think that's, yeah, the sign-in page component. It displays a set of user cards that the user can click on to sign in immediately. The auth test should use data attributes to identify the different cards. To identify the cards, and I'll also say to identify, I can't do that anymore, identify and interact with the cards. Okay, and then they just need to click on it. So I might even just say, as a appended note, there is no sign up form, only the user cards that the user can click on to sign in. Okay, back over at To Do Magachi. This is to fix up the sign up redirect issue. The sign up flow has two-step process. Sign up the user, that works, and then the create organization is likely failing. Okay. The page component calls create organization in the signups on success fallback and only redirects. Okay. Check if creating organization is failing. Check if there are any console errors. So before we do any of that, let's try it out in the actual browser. So let's go to 3001 and let's sign up as a new user. Yo, Ravi, what is up, my guy? How you doing? Thanks for jumping in the chat. So I'm just making up a new user. We're going to sign in, and I just want to see if it works. So, well, this is the sign up, not the sign in. The error is happening so the sign up works. Create organization is failing. Okay. And the organization is created successfully. So I'll say when I sign up in the browser, it creates a user and an org successfully. Tell me exactly the steps that are happening before the fail and why the fail is occurring. And I'm going to take it off of plan mode, and I'm actually just going to even cancel this and say only answer that. I'm going to go like this, go up an arrow, and then just add to the bottom and say only answer, like that. So it won't go off in a tangent. And let's clear this out just to clear it up a bit. Over at quiz.win, I've now told it about the sign up flow, which looks like this. You can just click a button and then sign in as whatever user, just to demonstrate. Just a portfolio project. Ravi says it's been busy. I've been wanting to restart streaming again with an old mic I found. Okay, cool. I recommend trying vertical. Try going vertical. I think that you'll have a bit more discovery because people then can see it in the shorts feed. And that's sort of what I've found. Quick thank you to everyone for watching and everyone who's subscribed. We're now up to 162, which is super exciting. Thank you so much. If you're a Vibe coder and you've created a web app, feel free to submit a code review and I can get it to 100% passing rate. All right, so let's continue. Ravi says, looks like your channel is growing. Congrats. Yeah, it is. Very slowly but surely, or it's a bit quicker now. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone for subscribing, and thanks for being here, Ravi. I know you've been a frequent chatter. I appreciate that. All right, so it's going to fix the E2E auth test to work with the user card sign-in. It's going to add test IDs to each of the elements, and then it's going to refer to those IDs, which will be stored. The values of the IDs will be in an enum. This is all following the testing documentation that I've referred it to. It's going to rewrite the E2E test to remove the sign-up flow that doesn't exist, and then fill dev password input. Wait for the user cards to load. Okay, so it doesn't actually need to fill the dev password. So no, there is no dev password input. The dev password is provided on the back end. So just look for the cards and click one to sign in. There is also no sign up flow, I don't think. Did we remove the sign up? Yeah, we're just going to keep it simple. There is also no sign up flow. Okay, and then back over at To Do Mogotchi. Again, there are links in the description to both of these projects. They're basically portfolio projects that allow me to demonstrate the test-driven development. But yeah, feel free to check them out. Based on my analysis of the code, each steps before the failure. Okay, so it's breaking it down. We navigate to sign up. We fill in the forms. We click the submit button. The submit handler executes. Mutation is called. BetterAuth creates a user account. The use sign up hook invalidates user queries. Sign up user on success. So when it succeeds from signing up, it then fires that, and we call the create organization inside of the sign up user on success. Then the organization creation starts. The redirect depends on organization creation succeeding. I don't actually know if that's accurate. Is likely failing in the test environment. The most likely cause is the create organization action expects an authenticated session user context, but in the playwright test environment, the session might not be properly established immediately after sign-up, causing the organization creation to fail with the permission authentication. Okay. Not properly established to immediately after sign-up. How long is it waiting is what I'm thinking. Why it works in the browser but not in tests. The browser has proper session cooking and timing. I think that it's overcomplicating it. How long is the timeout for the redirects? And when does that start? Like, is it, and when does the timeout start? And then I'll just put in brackets from the submission, form submission. I should have said only give me an answer, but that's okay. Yeah, okay, so back over to quiz.win. We have now fixed the tests, so it's much simpler. Or is this a plan? This is a plan, so we need to implement this. It's going to add the IDs to the elements, update the test ID enum, so that's the same thing. Rewrite the E2E test. It's going to remove the whole sign-up flow, and it's just going to navigate to sign in, wait for the user cards to appear, click one of them, and then verify the redirects to the dashboard, click the sign out, and verify that we redirect home. And yeah, that sounds good. So I'll say do that. Ravi asked, how did your video project go? I've actually put that on the back burner. I think you're referring to vids.tube. I put it on the back burner because I ended up going with the vertical format. So this was a project that basically uploaded all my videos, and then you could click on one of them. I don't think it's a very responsive design. I didn't really put that responsive effort in for this. But the idea is that you can then play the video and then place, so don't allow this, sorry, so as the video is playing, you can then place the crop frame, and then then you can set the start and end times, and it will make a clip, a vertical clip from the horizontal video. So I had made a lot of progress on that, and it actually is working. It is like combining your clips, and it's like taking the crop at that position, and you can download it straight to your browser. So you can try that. It's vids.tube if you'd like to try that out. But since I went vertical, I don't really have a use for that myself. So I'm now just focusing on the testing. That's my niche, is testing. So the idea is that you guys are able to build a web app, with or without my my project here, gazzola.dev. But if you do use this, you can then design your documentation, hand that to an AI, and the AI will use those docs to build, and then you can submit for a free code review. Then I'll apply Global Testing Suite and give you those test results for free. And if you'd like to continue, we can make a project to fix those things. Yeah. Ravi asks, what do you mean by vertical? Yeah, going vertical format, like as in portrait mode, the way that the video right now is like tall and thin rather than wide, like portrait rather than landscape. So you can see it on your phone, and that just means I can make shorts much easier. So I've released a couple of shorts already. Okay, the timeout is 15 seconds. The timeout starts after the form submit button is clicked. Let's just try it. So make it 30. Just give that a go. I'm not really sure if that's going to help, but at least it will rule it out. Okay, so what has it done here? It looks like it's, oh no, we still need to, no, that's to run the test. Let's see what it's actually done, how it did this. Oh, okay, so this is quiz.win, so we've made it quite a bit simpler. Let's give it a go. Clear this out, npm run test e2e auth. It should be actually a really quick short test. Shouldn't be that many cases. We should just click on one of those buttons, confirm that it signs us in, and then wait for it to, well, then sign out and then make sure that it actually does sign us out. Okay, so we expected the user card to be visible and the card was not found. So what I'll do in here, I'm actually going to clear this out just so we don't have a build-up of the context. Open up a new one and I'll refer to the latest instructions or to the latest output. So we go like this, test outputs, and then we can refer to the actual test name. And it should be smart enough to find the latest output, or at least my configuration should be consistent enough for it to actually find the name of the test in there, and then take a look at the screenshot, take a look at the outputs and see why this just failed. It says that it couldn't find the user cards, but I'm guessing that is because there's a misalignment between the tests and the components in terms of what the cards should look like. This is what it should look like here. If we refresh the page, it takes a second and then they load in. Apparently right now the test can't see those cards, it can't find them. Okay, so here are the results. Okay, so the user card visible, we're on the sign-in page. On the initial load, they should be visible, but the cards aren't found. The screenshots, what do the screenshots show? I could look at them myself, but it's quicker this way. Basically, I just want to see if the screenshot shows whether the cards are there. I'm also interested to see what the timeout, like how the whole thing is constructed here. This is not a configuration, so we can get rid of that. It's actually nothing. But where is it happening? So that's all in the before. Here's the test. Auth card visible. Okay. This is all just logger. Okay, so let's get to where it's actually doing it here. Wait for selector. It's waiting for the data test ID attribute with the auth card like this, and then it has the test user email in there, and it's not able to find that right now. So let's go to the sign in form, which is this one, and I want to see where the data test ID, how this is calculated. So it is user card and then user email. Let's make sure that makes sense with the tests. User card, user email. So that does make sense here. Org owner 1. It should make sense. Let's see what it thinks about the screenshots here. The key issue is the test is looking for this user, but this user is not displayed on this sign-in page. All the visible users have different email addresses, which is why the test fails. Okay, so how do we get that to match? Okay, look at the seed data. Do we have data seed? So this is the seed script that actually populates the database, and this is where we have all these users defined. And so it can then say, look at the seed data and make sure that the test is looking for an email that exists in the database and is displayed in a card on the sign in page. And I'll do a plan on that. And that should be pretty straightforward. We just need to get it to identify those elements properly. Okay, so this one has just extended the timeout, which is kind of hacky, but I think that it could just be because it's timing out, like it's starting the timeout way early, and then it has like a few processes that it goes through before it expires. So you hit sign up, and then it does a couple of things, and then redirects. So I just want to give it that little bit extra time, see if that doesn't help. So back over at quiz.win, well, I guess since we're doing something on both of them, so in the meantime, I fill the time with a bit of chatting about the topic. So the topic is the AI amplification asymmetry, which suggests that individuals gain more than organizations. It's because you don't have communication overhead. If you're on your own, you're working with AI, then you only need to communicate your ideas to the AI, which is directly creating the product. You always have full context. You don't need to communicate between other people. You don't have tribal knowledge problems. The AI maintains the context without organizational knowledge silos. And you have higher iteration speed, more economic leverage because it multiplies your hourly rate by 5 to 10 rather than distributing through the teams. So yeah, I'll come back to that in a moment, but I just have a topic to talk about each day to fill in the time. All right, so here's Claude's plan. The root cause is that the test expects this email here, but this doesn't exist in the seed data. Okay, so the proposed fix is to update the test to use an existed seeded user instead of the non-existent. All right, go for that and hope that works. This is looking good. We still have the first one failing, but it looks like the last one will be failing too. Not sure why. So it's the same issue. I'm going to copy that all over. Appears to be the same issue. All we did was add a timeout, so we don't even need to copy that over. Just say that it didn't work. That didn't work. Diagnose concisely. Consider all evidence and screenshots. Consider the corresponding components. Okay, it wants to run the tests again, so we can do that for it. Let's run npm run e2e auth and see if this works. It should be pretty simple. They should just be finding the cards on that sign-in page, clicking one of them, it'll sign them in, and then they just need to sign out. So hopefully that works. Let's check on this one while we're waiting. The diagnosis is that the issue is the create organization action, which requires session headers. In Playwright tests, the session cookie from signup may not be properly set available. Okay, so the root cause is a race condition between signup completing and session cookie being available for the subsequent create organization. So this is to do with the testing environment because this is working fine when I do it in the browser. Okay, so solutions. And then list. Okay, so the solution would be to pass the session header. Why isn't the session accessible in the tests? And how do I make it available? All right. And then this is quiz.win. We ran the test again. We got one fail. So it's only the first test that failed. Oh, there's only one test, but this will give us information about why it's failing. Again, I'm going to use it in the same conversation because we have a lot of context in here that it's been working on, and it doesn't look like we're close to getting compacted yet, so I'll keep going on that. All right, so the session is being created, but there's a timing issue. Okay, so the cookie propagation delay, right? React query cache timing. So it invalidates the query in the sign-up hook, triggers a refetch, but the create organization calls happen immediately. Better auth session establishment. The session may not be fully established. Add a small delay before create organization. I always try to avoid this. Hard coding a delay is very hacky. Option 2, wait for a session to be confirmed. On success, async. Okay. Option 3, move organization creation to server side. Make the sign-in action automatically create the organization on the back end. Do a plan for 3. So I'm not asking for it to do 3, but I want to understand more about what it's suggesting to do here. And I'll clear this out just to get it ready. Okay, back at quiz.win. The user clicked the card and did get redirected to the dashboard, but the test failed because it's waiting for the URL to be dashboard. Right, and so that's an easy fix, and it's the same issue that was happening before. It's because dashboard is a grouped directory, so it's not actually a segment. So let's say we want to say no, clear this out, and say remove the reference to the dashboard segments. This is a no, we don't need to say why. The actual dashboard route is, I'm pretty sure it's just at the home route, but I'll just quickly check that. If we sign in, just click on the system admin. Should take us to the home route. Yeah, so it's at the home route, is at the root route. And this could be close. This could be getting close, this one. I really want to see a green test. Better auth after it wants to do after. Okay. Okay. How about rather than doing this, we have this auth file right here. This is where we have these plugins. So after an organization is created, we create a random Tamagotchi like this. So I think what we could do is add a plugin that will, maybe we don't actually have, we have admin, but I don't think that we have the same functionality for sign up. Let's ask the question, say consider auth.ts. There is a hook that creates org content when a org is created. Is there a sign up hook, a similar sign up hook that can create the org? So that's just a regular old question. Going to get some clarification on that. All right, so this test has been fixed. Well, it has apparently been fixed. Let's give it a go. Now it should be expecting the correct destination, but we'll let that run and come back. And in the meantime, YouTube is not responding. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. This might be the end of the stream. Test, just to see if this works. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm going to keep going. I just got a not responding error in YouTube, so hopefully we're still live. Okay, so it's going to do a web search to try and find out this answer for me to determine whether or not we can use that kind of hook, the same hook. Oh, cool. Thank you so much for confirming. I appreciate that, Ravi. That's really cool. Okay. So we are getting another error here. Let's see what Claude thinks. We did fix that problem. It was a bug that we fixed, but we're still getting an error. The sign out failed, so it must be not being able to find the sign out button. Good progress. Now the first 2 assertions pass, but it's failing at the sign out. The test successfully signed in, but the sign out button wasn't found. Okay. I can see there's a user avatar button in the top right, which likely contains the sign out button. Right, so it actually needs to open up the menu and then click the sign out button. And that should be pretty straightforward. You can see it's found it's looking for the component right now. Sign up button test ID isn't being used anywhere in the code. So let's say, I think it's in the header, in the layouts for the whole app. This is in the dashboard. Sign out, just looking for where this button actually is. Sign out, so let's search for this. Sign out, come on now, sign out. Okay, so we have the handle sign out here, but this should be inside of a avatar menu. So let's go inside this. And now that I've focused in this file, I can just go back to that chat and it's going to have reference to that file. Look at the selected file. This is where the sign out button is located. The test should find the avatar menu trigger by using a test data attribute, and then open the menu and find the sign out button, also using, no, I shouldn't say that, and click it. Make sure to use data attributes for all interactions. And I'll do a plan, and then this should hopefully get us to a green test. Ravi says, it is also difficult for you to test video and audio connections with YouTube OBS. I don't really know how. I don't know how to do any, like what I'm doing now is like the maximum of my knowledge with YouTube and OBS and streaming. I schedule it because it's the only way I know how to create it, and then I just link it through OBS and then go for it. And if it gives me a yellow message, then I get scared and that's it. I still need to figure out all the tricks. Okay, so I want you to do that. That's good. It's going to use the data attributes to open the avatar and then sign out. So we'll do an accept edits. Okay, so the better auth hook has hooks. Let me check. Okay, so it's still just doing some research to find out if we can have a bit more of an elegant way of creating the organization that will resolve this testing issue. It's not actually an issue right now in the app itself, but in the tests, it's not persisting the states, the signed in state. While that's loading, we can chat about the topic. So organizations are coordination machines. So AI doesn't reduce the need for alignment between stakeholders, quality assurance across team members, and the knowledge transfer and documentation. A solo freelancer with AI can match the output quality of 3 to 5 people if they weren't using AI. So the individual, there's like a lot of opportunity for it looks like I've continued a conversation about a different thing. I don't know if this is actually in the chat link below. There's a link to this in the description, but I was trying to find out who was the person in the Tame Impala video loser. I think it actually turned out to be the artist, Kevin, or whatever is Tame Impala's real name. I don't know if these extra chats are in the linked chat in the logs, or in the description below. I'm actually going to check that after this stream. All right, so I've completed all the updates. So this is at quiz.win. So we now should have a simple test that goes through and just signs in and signs out using those user cards that we have. So I'll let that run, and in the meantime, we'll check out to do Magotchi, and it has a plan to use a more elegant way of creating an organization after sign up. So it's going to use the better auth's after hook to automatically create an organization when the user signs up, similar to the after create organization. Okay, update the auth.ts, add a after hook to the better auth config, detects when this endpoint is called, extracts user data from the context, okay, then generates, so now we should have that user data in the context within the better auth system, so we don't need to pass it from server to client, we'll have it directly in the better auth client. And then we need to remove the use client create organization hook, so we don't have a duplication, is that how you say that? Duplication. And we're going to remove the create organization mutation call from the handle submits. Simplify the on success, so it's just going to redirect. Go for it. Go for it, and then that test should be working. So that was an issue that wasn't actually with the logic. It was working in the browser, but the test wasn't passing. So in the meantime, this has now run and still failed again. So we're going to paste these logs in, and I'm just going to do, just because we have so much context in here already, I'm literally just pasting those logs in and hitting plan mode, because we're now just iterating. So we've already given it all the context. We're close, I think, but we just need to figure out what's happening. Okay. This is, it's just trying to find some more information about, what is this exactly? So this one is asking about, this is at Tamagotchi. I'm just trying to remember what this prompt is about. Needs to fix the TypeScript errors. Okay, so this is the one where we are creating the organization using the auth hook. Let's see how that goes. And then in the meantime, this is still thinking about why this test has failed at quiz.win. And they're both cruising, so while that's happening, we can chat again about the topic, but I will just bring this down so that you can see what's going on. And if you're wondering, yeah, you can find out about Tame Impala in the same chat. Yeah, I think that this is, I've pretty much covered this. I'll cover this when we get back. It looks like in the background it's finished. Okay, so it's successfully implemented the server-side organization creation. Let's give that a go. I could try it in the browser first, but we might as well try it with the test, and I'll come back to that. This should be nearly finished. They're both coming along. They're both kind of at the same point. So we're now just trying to figure out the sign out. So this is the last step. We can click the button, we can sign in, confirm that they're signed in, but it's having trouble finding the sign out button. It might be that the avatar menu trigger is taking a while to load. I'd also like to increase the number of smaller logs in here so we actually see the process going on. But for the moment, this is fine. We got 3 failed now. Okay, but it's one of the tests. So one case, but then 3 failed assertions in there. So that's useful data. But I have a feeling we might not get to a green test today, but that's all right. I'll make sure it actually was green before I started streaming. It really was. So something is different about this environment because I've switched over to my streaming environment. Okay, plan to fix the sign out test expectations. The test expects redirect to that, but we're redirecting to the sign in page. Okay, and I think that actually should be it. Change the expected URL. Yeah, go for it. That should be a pretty easy fix. So when it signs out, it's expecting to go to the home page, but instead it should go to the sign in page. And this is the Tamagotchi test, and it looks like it's, we have 9 passing now with 1 fail. So we're getting there. I think it's still worth keeping it in the same context. And I'm still just doing the very hacky way of copying all the logs. I do have an output system, but because it's been a little bit unreliable, I'm going to fix it off stream so that we have the workflow working next stream. Okay, so let's paste this straight in. And I don't see a compaction warning yet, so I'm going to keep going in the same chat. Okay, completed all the fixes, and let's try that. npm run test e2e auth and see if this passes. I'll come back to that because apparently it has fixed everything. Let's see if that works. And then what's this one up to? Okay, the add Tamagotchi creation. The problem is that the after create organization hook doesn't fire because we're creating the organization directly via Prisma, not the create organization. Okay, we want to add the Tamagotchi creation logic to the after hook right after Okay, after creating the organization, no, I want to use the better auth create org hook, and I'll do a plan mode on that because it's now manually creating the org, whereas we want it to be created using the better auth hook. I think it's insert organization or something like that. Okay, so the problem is that it's creating the organization directly via Prisma and it bypasses this hook. We need that hook to run. The solution is in the after signup hook, use this. So using the better auth client, it's going to call the API and then create organization. So that's what I want. Whether it works is another question. All right, this one has completed those fixes, and we have a pass. We have a pass. So that means that we are able. It's very simple. It's a very simple test, but it does indicate that the core, like the essentials, playwright configuration, the development server, the interactions with the elements, being able to find the elements, the logging, the output file. We could also check. It's all working. So this is all a very foundational thing, and it's a good sign. I'm happy. It would be great if we can get the other one passing too. The output file is still not working that well, but it is passing. So let's push a commit, clear this out, git add, git commits -m fix, and then this is tests, and it is the auth test. And I'll just do a push on that. And then back over it to Doomagachi, let's have a look at how this has gone. So we've already copied these, and now it's made the change. So let's clear this out and see if we can get this to pass too. It would be great if we could, but I'm thinking that it's probably going to have the same issue. These errors in the logs that we're seeing down here are to do with the polling that enables for live updates. So that's a separate issue. But keeping an idea, failed to create organization after sign up. All right, so this bug is still here, and I think that this is one that I'll deal with off stream. Yeah, I'll work on this off stream, but we did get one pass. We got this passing, and so I'm pretty happy with that. We got one green. That's good for today. So I'll leave it there for today. A big thank you for everyone who watched and everyone for signing, subscribing. We're up to 163, which is a huge deal. I really, really appreciate it. I'll be here every other day at 10 a.m. EDT. Wait, no, 10 a.m. Australian Melbourne time, which is 7 p.m. EDT. Yeah, so thanks again, everyone. My name is As Anything, and as always,